Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the virtual breakfast sessions. I'm Larry Sashin, and today we have a great group from DC to discuss Spotlight on DC. What are the restaurant trends, the positives and negatives of doing business in DC? But before we do that, let me introduce you to Culinary Education Leaders. It's the new series from the virtual breakfast session that highlights the educators that are teaching students, whether they be out of high school or changing a job, the culinary industry, the food service and hospitality industries. So if you happen to know a school in your neighborhood that is teaching this, let me know. And colleges, let us know your alma mater. We're interested in interviewing these people because they are supplying our industry, who always seems to be one man short. So culinary education leaders, and back to the show. Spotlight on DC. But before we do that, let me introduce our panel. Chef Jeff, why don't you start and we'll go around the room.
Sure. Larry, thanks for having me. Jeff Tracy. I'm the founder and owner of the Chef Jeff Restaurant Group here in Washington, D.C. We operate a handful of restaurants and various food service operations. And I've been doing it for 26 years here in Washington, D.C.
Okay. Alan, say hi.
Sure. Good morning. Thanks again for having me. My name is Alan Heyman. I have been in the restaurant technology space for, 50 years. I hate to say that, but the technology space, both in DC and other areas, has been one of interest for me. I continue to help technology companies place their solutions in restaurants around the country, but I'm especially interested in what's going on in DC because it's my hometown, born and raised here, and a lot has changed. Some of it for the better, some of it maybe not so much, which we can talk about later today.
Sounds great. Ben, say hi.
Hey, I am Benny Fisher, former restaurant owner, had dozens of restaurants in the DC, Baltimore area. And now I am in the marketing business. My company is called Zivzo Marketing Group, and we do a lot of restaurant work.
Okay.
Happy to be here this morning.
Thank you. Thank you. Hey, Tom, say hi.
Hey, Tom Papadopoulos, Papadopoulos Properties. We're a full-service commercial real estate firm, but specializing in the food and beverage and entertainment industry, and have been doing so with my company since 1984, and 5 years prior to that, I was with another company. What I like to say is that we transform neighborhoods and enhance projects all throughout the DC market.
Thank you, Tom. Fred, say hi.
Good morning. I'm Fred Clashman, the editor and publisher at Total Food Service.
Okay. Thank you all for coming, and let's go on with the show. Spotlight on DC. Chef Jeff, what is the advantage of doing business in DC?
I don't know if there's any significant advantages. It is it's my home. I went to Georgetown University. I graduated there in 1995, met my wife freshman year at Georgetown, and this is sort of where we settled down. We did a quick little 7-year stint in New York City where I was kind of going back and forth a lot. But this is my home, and so this is where I wanted to start my my business. And once you have a foothold or a lease, you're sort of stuck here. And I keep signing leases or extensions, you get to know a city. It's not massive like New York City or Chicago or LA. And it's my home, and I just sort of know this as my neighborhood.
So, Benny, what are the advantages or disadvantages doing business? Or what makes DC unique in the country for doing business?
You got a lot of transient people. It's the government, the seat of the government, and there's just a lot of movement of people. So there's There's, opportunities. The city has expanded dramatically in the last 20 years. Different areas, the wharf area, the baseball field area over there. And just in general, the DC has really, grown a lot. Population may have grown as well. But there's opportunities everywhere in DC to open restaurants and be successful.
Okay. So, Tom, in your real estate dealings, what are you finding? How are you drawing people down to DC?
Generally, the DC market, you can pretty much open a restaurant anywhere in DC, and if you put out a good product, you will be successful. There's many groups that have gone into neighborhoods or areas that a lot of people would think, why are they going there? But they put out a good product and it draws a crowd over there. It's been a successful market. And when you talk about the negative and the positive, the government is a positive and the government's also a negative. The groups the lobbyists and the groups that deal with the government, they're very successful. They spend money. Then when the government shuts down, that hurts local businesses as well. But I think the fact that a lot of groups, and we deal with a lot of groups, we brought a lot of operators down from New York. We brought a lot of international groups into DC. They all seem to have been very successful. So that leads to other groups coming to town and helps the local operators as well.
Okay. So on the tech end, what's going on in DC, Alan?
Well, I think on the tech end, what we see happening is primarily with AI, the Northern Virginia corridor and everything. This is a major hub for data centers in Loudoun County, which is close by. I think what's happened is I think the entire tech space has enlightened the restaurant industry that there's opportunities to leverage technology more so than there has been in the past. So there's been a lot of changes, I think, in the world. There's been a lot of focus in DC around data centers and AI and technology being applied to a wide variety of industries, and the restaurant industry is beginning to take advantage of it, which is great. So that's a space that I'm working in right now. But I think it's because of the proximity we are to the center of the universe in so many ways that both the government and the technology that we see here with Amazon opening up headquarters and what's going on locally with data centers, I think that's beginning, the larger effects will be trickling down to restaurants as operators are looking for tools to enhance their businesses and their operations and drive top line revenue.
So, Fred, I see a question in your face.
Yeah, I think one of the things I hear when I speak to people about expanding into DC is this is a town without a tip credit right now. Seems to be a lot of question over being able to how we can navigate through the labor issues, et cetera. Jeff, in particular, I'm curious as an operator, what are you seeing in terms of labor force? What are your thoughts in terms of, has there been a return of tip credit? Is there a discussion of that? Where are we?
We're definitely in this is a super complicated issue that has hit Washington, D.C. It's a unnecessary mistake by the city to allow it to happen. Although it all happened on a ballot initiative, right? So it was the voters who voted for it. The council tried to overturn it afterwards, and actually was successful in doing so. And then they got it back on the ballot initiative, and it passed again. And there's no political desire to go back. But now it's been held up. So now we're at like $10.50 an hour on the tip wage, and $18 and something cents for the minimum wage. When this whole thing was bubbling through the process, I argued that there was only going to be three groups that were unhappy with the elimination of the tip wage. And it was going to be the restaurant owners, it was going to be the customers, and it was going to be all the tipped employees. And I was right. and I was totally right. Because the customers don't like the increase in price. The servers don't like the sort of complicated tip model where people are charging service charges and people are charging different things. And the restaurant owners don't like the fact that their bottom line is being decimated.
So how do we work this into the bottom line so that everybody is a little bit more happy? Anybody?
The only way to do that is to raise the cost for people. And unfortunately, in D.C., you can go right across the border into Montgomery County. I have a restaurant in Montgomery County where the tip wage is $4 and change. And so we pay $6 more per hour for every tipped employee, right across. I mean, the restaurants are a mile away from each other. So it's a different business model.
So what's the attitude of retail landlords?
Well, I can give you the answer to that. It's never changed. They want as much money they can get from you. So, Tom, am I wrong on that?
You're not wrong, although a lot of landlords view restaurants as a draw for the balance of their property. So they are willing to, they still want top dollar in rent, but they're willing to invest more into the space to get the right operator in there.
Okay. Expand on that.
Tenant improvement money.
Tenant improvement money. In other words, a downtown office building in today's market with office leasing on the lighter side, landlords will look at a prominent or well-known restaurant operator as an advantage to put them in their building to draw the office tenant in there. And they're willing to spend a little bit more money today than they were a few years ago to get that right operator in there. And,
Okay.
They're still looking for top dollar rent, but they're working with that as well.
One issue that comes with the tenant landlord relationship with the elimination or the increase of the wages and stuff like that. So, I mean, the only way to pay start at a minimum wage of $18.50 and to be able to have any sort of bottom line and the elimination of the tip wage is to increase prices, right? Like there's only so much cost cutting you can do in the restaurant business.
Yeah.
As a result, if your sales go up because of the fact that you, instead of charging $15 for a burger, you're charging $23 for a burger, your sales go up. So if your sales go up and you pay a percentage rent part, you're actually paying more to the landlord. So it is a very complicated change to the whole system, and it's something that should not happen in ballot initiatives. It should come through legislation through the council.
So do you have lobbyist representation or I know there's a restaurant association. What's their involvement in terms of lobbying politically for you?
The Restaurant Association of Metropolitan Washington is an excellent organization. I used to be the chairman, and I'm a member now. And they've done great work, raising funds, political action committees, battling all these things from a legal standpoint, from a political standpoint, a lobbying standpoint. It's just, there's a lot of people coming at you in terms of District of Columbia because we're so small. From a legislative process, you only need to get 6 or 7 people to vote in a particular way to get legislation passed. It's very easy to get things on these ballot initiatives, and so outside groups can come in, lobby, give money, and force changes. And as I say, a ballot initiative should not change the compensation structure of an entire industry. Because as much as I love the people of DC, I'm not sure they understand compensation structures for the entire restaurant industry.
Yeah. Yeah. All they care about is
it's not like a usual state where you have a state house and you have a large,
correct, or a governor,
very, very different. This is a very different, So what needs to happen in order to repeal something like this? What are the steps, and who are the people that need to be reached out to and spoken to get this accomplished?
It's working with the council, and trust me, the council in general basically understands that this is not the best situation that's ever happened to DC. They understand that restaurant operators are struggling on a lot of levels.
Yeah.
It's a hard business in normal times, and when you don't know what the wages are going to be next year, it's really hard to plan. And because it's so confusing, like it's changing, it's like it's a slow death, right? It's like these things get implemented in over a 5 or 6 year period. During the first one, when they wanted to eliminate the tip wage going to the regular wage, that was going to be a $400,000 increase in payroll for each of my restaurants. And
Wow.
so that's not like, people are like, well, then, you'll just make less money. I'm like, I don't make $400,000 per restaurant.
Yeah.
Like, you don't understand. So I have to change the entire business model, but it happens over a period of time. So it's like, it's like drowning slowly.
Yeah. And the only one that really makes out is the government, because they
Yeah,
get the
well,
tax-free
Well,
money.
the servers, the employees are happy to see that price increase. So
Right.
they're happy. That's probably
No,
what
they're
was
not.
driving it.
No, I
Well,
disagree. No, they're
but what
not.
happens? The prices
they're
go
not.
up. People cut back on their tips.
Yeah, no, they're not.
Yeah,
Wow.
people do cut back on their tips. My brother and I studied the heck out of this whole thing, and we've been doing so for like 4 or 5 years because this has been a 5-year battle. But they've before the whole thing happened, my servers, my tipped employees were making essentially $37 an hour, all said and done, between wages and tips, $37 an hour. After this whole thing, we've got a 5% surcharge, I-87 or I-83 fee, and then now they're making essentially $37 an hour. It's just a more complicated way of getting there for them. And they understood the system before, and everybody understood the system. People knew what to tip. Now people don't totally know what to tip because some restaurants have 0% surcharge, some have 5, some have 10, some have 20, some have 20 plus a tip line. And so it's just complicated, and it's sort of an unforced error here in the city.
Plus, when the costs go
Tom.
up, people eat out less often.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. I mean,
Yeah, costs go up, but salaries don't. But salaries don't, and that's the problem. When you're in a certain level of restaurant, when you start pricing yourself out of your bread and butter. At one time, the only place I know that had a $26 hamburger was the Minetta Tavern. And it was a treat to get their burger. Now your local pub sells $26 burgers, but the people who are buying them don't have that money anymore.
Well,
And it becomes
that's true. I mean, prices go up. It scares people away. I don't care who you are, but that. And then the surcharge. I mean, Alan and I have talked about the surcharge. That kind of irritates me. I'd rather see just a higher price on the product than that surcharge. I don't like the way that affects a customer base. I think they resent that. I think it should be wrapped into the price and no surcharge. But every operator has their own ideas on that.
And on top of it, people see a 5% surcharge, and they reduce the tip by 5%,
Yes.
and they give the same thing anyway.
I actually on my website I have a thing describing how we're handling it, and I basically tell people that they should reduce. I said that 5% is going to the server. You should probably adjust your gratuity accordingly. That's a fine line to walk as a restaurant operator when you have all your servers. But that was the way we just decided to do it at the beginning, not willy-nilly. We put a lot of study into it in terms of like, hey, we're not trying to benefit from this, but I can't get killed. I can't.
No.
My bottom line can't change.
Right.
Like,
You're
I
in
have
business.
to keep going.
You're in
it's not
business
like,
to make money. I mean, you can't make money with what they're doing to you in DC. It's just horrible.
So that's how we've sort of managed the status quo. But it is a more complicated way of getting there. If we could go back, I would get rid of the surcharge right away. I don't have a surcharge in Montgomery County. And at the end of the day, my two neighborhood restaurants in D.C. and Montgomery County, at the end of the day, they sort of end up in exactly the same place in terms of total sales and in terms of bottom line. But the P&L, around the labor, it just shows up a little bit differently.
What about does it force you into a decision between a shopping at Restaurant Depot versus buying from Chef's Warehouse? Does it change how you source and how you buy?
I've always had good relationships with very strong vendors. We do annual audits, bids. We have a very robust negotiating policy.
Yeah.
and I don't jump around a lot. I believe in loyalty with your vendors, but in return, I expect really good pricing and really good customer service, and we have that with our vendors.
And what you don't know about Jeff is that he has two restaurants that have been in business for over 20 years, so he must be doing something right.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
yes.
And I can add
No.
on to that. I was at Leah's last week. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, Leah's.
And,
This is the week of the 20th anniversary. So we opened that restaurant 20 years ago, and it was. I remember doing sort of the training before we even opened, and the World Cup was on, and a bunch of people came in and sat down at the bar, even though we weren't open, and just started watching the World Cup. And they're like, "Oh, you're not open?" And we're like, "We got beer back here. You want some?" And so they hung out and had some beers and watched the World Cup.
There's a plus to everything.
Yeah.
So, Tom, how does this affect someone coming in from outside who's never been exposed to this kind of economy, restaurant economy? How does that change how you sell properties?
well, there's a track record here, and over the last 4, 5, 6 years, we've had a lot of groups coming in from out of town, a lot of groups from New York. We brought many groups down from New York, and for the most part, they're very successful, and that's a selling point. We say, look, we brought in over the years, we brought down to DC Danielle Ballou, Bobby Flay, David Chang, Philippe Chow, and they have track records, and we use that as a selling point. We have international groups that have come to town. The Zuma Restaurant Group has come to town. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but they're a large international group, very successful in DC. Scale Hospitality from Canada has come to town. Operators from New York, Balos. Are you familiar with 4-5 Coffee in New York? They're in Manhattan. They're in Long Island. They're in the boroughs. Very successful. They came to town with their coffee operator. Now they're in the restaurant business, and they've opened up 3 of the busiest and hottest restaurants in town right now. Giordano's from Chicago has just opened up. So when you see these names that have come to DC, it's a good selling point for other groups.
And Minetta Grill is in DC as well.
Minetta Tavern's here.
Yeah.
We just brought into Georgetown. We just brought in 510 Hospitality out of LA. They just opened up a couple of weeks ago. Very successful. They opened up a steakhouse in Georgetown. So those are the selling points because we have track record with these guys.
But you do have to be you have to be a savvy operator in terms of managing your P&L and that's it's. I mean, when I opened the restaurant when I was 27 years old, I'd like to think I was savvy, but I was a real rookie. There was a little bit more room for error back then. There is very little room for error now. So you have to manage that labor. You have to negotiate the lease deal, and you need to have a good attorney.
Yes. So, Alan.
Yes.
Alan, I know you can't renegotiate leases, and I know you can't do anything about the tip credit, but how can AI help these restaurateurs navigate these waves?
Well, it's an interesting question. I think there's a lot of AI floating around with all kinds of promises. Lately, the most impactful use of AI that I've seen in restaurants so far is a startup called Guestology, happens to be out of Vancouver, Canada. And what this solution does, and I should probably spend some more time talking to Jeff about it, but it identifies high value customers to the restaurant. So when they arrive at the restaurant, the solution, looking at their reservation history, looking at their point of sale data, will determine if Larry's getting closer to the brand, peaking with the brand, or might be leaving the brand based on your historical visits and your spend and what you spend money on. And then what it does is it explains to the staff, suggests to the staff, the server, the hostess, and the manager, what to do to give exceptional service to that particular customer while they're in the restaurant. Might be skip the line, premium table, glass of Prosecco, a little mini dessert, but to make what probably drives loyalty to a restaurant is recognition more than anything, not points, not apps, not rewards, especially in the table service restaurants. It's really about how the restaurant makes you feel. And this particular solution, which is driven by AI, which is a piece of the puzzle, is really helping the staff to identify those high value customers and treat them a little bit better, with the premise that they will return more often because the restaurant made them feel like they belonged. Okay, which is an old Danny Meyer, kind of motto and framework that they work within. And it proved, we rolled out to a major chain called Earl's that has a restaurant in Tyson's Corner, 70 restaurants around Canada and North America, and the results have been astonishing. And it does prove itself out that if you spend a little time, a little extra effort to make the right customers feel better, you can't do this with every customer, but you can certainly identify the anonymous customer and turn them into somebody that wants to come back to that restaurant because of how the staff made them feel. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody, but that seems to be a way of driving top line revenue.
Yes, Fred, one more question before we have to start wrapping up.
Me.
You.
Good. What does the future hold as you look at the DC marketplace? Is it positive? Are there too many challenges? What is the truth between the good, the bad, and the ugly that I hear?
Well, I think there's always opportunities. I mean, people adapt to the problems and they move forward. As Tom is telling you, it's not stopping a lot of the new operations coming into DC. So I think the challenges that we face today in DC, there's workarounds for all of it.
Okay. The fact that the government's here provides a bit of stability for operators. Even over the years when the economy's dropped off and around the country, DC didn't drop off as much. It was a little bit more steady.
And Tom, what are the specific locations that are hot right now that people are looking at, that folks that are coming in are going into?
The hottest neighborhood right now by far is Georgetown.
Okay.
That is.
Okay.
Yeah, and my take is, yes, there will be opportunities, but it does require one of my original mantras when I started the business was infinite adaptability. Because you can plan for everything, right, and then none of that will happen. So you have to adjust and just kind of roll with it. We have a new mayor coming in. We've had the same mayor for a long time. New mayor could be a challenge. So that things are gonna change, and you're gonna have to kind of roll with it. But people are going to continue to eat, and people are continuing to hang out, have a good time. Going to full service restaurants is entertainment for people. It's not sustenance, right? You don't need to buy a $20 hamburger. You can make a burger at your house, but people like to go out and hang out with their friends and their family.
Yes. Okay. As I always say, time is our enemy. And we've come to that time where we have to start thinking about wrapping up. But before we go around the room to give that one little tidbit of information that you want people to go home with, I have to reintroduce the culinary education leaders. Listen, this series has covered everything from high school classes to MBA entrepreneurial classes, all to do with hospitality and culinary. These are the people who are building that next wave of hospitality and food service workers / leaders. So if you're a restaurateur, look up the local schools and see what they have to offer, or look at us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And there are already 14 different schools up there, ranging from Salem, Massachusetts High School to Johnson and Wales, to Dominican University, whose entrepreneurial master's program is highlighted in this show. So give us a look on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube, and let's go around the room. Guys, we seem to have done more than a half hour and never touched on food trends, which was the whole idea of the show. But that's the virtual breakfast sessions. We get on a jag and we run with it. So Chef Jeff, why don't you start and give that last bit of information to people before we have to say goodbye?
Well, all I have to say to all the people out there is, come by the restaurant and, enjoy the restaurants in Washington, D.C. We have a lot of great operators here in the city, and it's a fun place to dine.
Okay. Alan.
I look, the restaurant scene, I was born and raised here. It's forever changing. I think the local restaurant operators like Jeff have made a huge difference, and I love the outside people coming, but they've got to learn this market. I think they come from other cities, and I don't know, maybe they make certain assumptions about DC, and then they learn on the job here. This is a unique market. It's DC, it's Maryland, it's Virginia. It's complicated. We can be fickle. So really somebody has to be on top of their game and use all the tools that are available to them. You're not going to be able to always change the way government reacts. And, we got National Guard on the street, and you can argue whether that's good or bad. But I can tell you that there are changes in DC that happen that you cannot predict. And I think what Jeff said about being able to be flexible, be smart about it is so important. And I'm not sure always that the outside operators coming from other cities come here and get that and are as flexible as they need to be in order to be a standout in the city.
Yes, and Tom, we all know that if somebody wants to move to DC or is thinking about it, you're the person they should get a hold of. So
I hope so.
Tell them about the market. Give us that last little tidbit so that they could find you. And
I would say come to Washington, D.C. and open your restaurant. You will not be disappointed.
Okay. All right. Ben, the founder of the feast, Ben introduced us to all these fine people. So thank you. Thank you. That's a double-edged sword, by the way. If they weren't fine people, I'd be after you. But this was a good show.
All right. Well, if the new restaurants come to DC, they need to call me. My company is Zivzo Marketing Group, and we do restaurant marketing. And who better to market your restaurant than a former restaurant man himself? So that's my message. But I think DC opportunities will always be there. And I think the restaurants will continue to flourish.
Okay. Fred.
Looking forward to seeing how the new mayor treats the industry.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for
Thank you,
helping
guys.
us out.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
right.
you. And I only have two things left to say. Everybody, stay positive, test negative, and we'll see you next week. Bye now.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers.
Thanks. So long, Jeff.
Yeah.
All right.